We're in a world of spiraling economic inequality. And for the first time in the history of humanity, the elites will be able to do something which they've dreamed of, which is they'll be able to map biological inequality onto economic inequality. And we're starting to already see this, not just with potential gene therapies being applied to fetuses, but even young children being given human growth hormone. So they'll be 3 to 4 inches taller than their peers. More affluent parents are beginning to do that in the US, for instance. And that, to me, is terrifying. That's more terrifying than most things I can conceive of.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fight for the AI economy. Please give a warm welcome to your speakers, Zoltan Istvan and Bastani.
So Zoltan, please tell these wonderful people who you are.
Hi everyone, my name is Zoltan Istvan. I live in San Francisco. I'm a little jet lagged because I just got in yesterday evening, but I'm excited to be here. This is a wonderful place, and I have never been here before, so this is an amazing festival to me. But what a lot of people know me for is my work in the transhumanist field. Transhumanism is a social movement of many millions of people around the world that want to use technology to upgrade the human body. It can be anything from AI, exoskeleton suits, driverless cars, anything like that. Whatever the most radical 10% of technology is, that's transhumanism. And I've spent most of my career promoting this idea that we will one day either merge with machines or become cyborgs or something like this, eventually get to the Star Trek era. I began my career at National Geographic as a journalist, continued working other places, including the New York Times. I have also run for a couple different offices, including the US presidency before in 2016. In terms of finishing, I think I got 6th in terms of the media coverage that happened in 2016. So some people know me from that wacky campaign. We didn't have any intention to win the presidency that time, but we did promote transhumanism, as well as transhumanism's #1 goal, which is trying to get people to not die using science to overcome biological aging. And a #1 premise of my campaign, any campaign I do, including the governor run right now, is trying to provide a basic income to everybody, because we feel strongly that artificial intelligence is coming for almost all the jobs that exist on planet Earth.
Wow. And I thought my political proclivities were eccentric. No, I kind of agree. I'm on board with most of that. My name is Bastani. I co-founded an organization called Novara Media. I wrote a book called Fully Automated Luxury Communism. There's quite a lot of overlap between what we think with regards to automation, AI, the future of how society will or won't work. I am first and foremost a journalist, really. And at Novara Media, we have been really interested about the intersection of technology, politics, social transformation for 5 to 10 years, but now we feel that things are really heating up, particularly here in the UK. We're getting ready really for something which might even resemble regime change, frankly, at the next general election. We're certainly ready for something very big. So these kinds of conversations are really timely. I feel like 5 years ago, a dialogue around automation or longevity, or people like Curtis Yarvin having political influence would have just sounded outlandish, but that's now the world we're in. So I'm very happy we can talk about all of this. Let's start with transhumanism. What's so good about it? I mean, it feels to me that we're in a world of spiraling economic inequality. And for the first time in the history of humanity, the elites will be able to do something which they've dreamed of. I mean, they called themselves blue blood, which is they'll be able to map biological inequality onto economic inequality. And that, to me, is terrifying. That's more terrifying than most things I can conceive of. And we're starting to already see this, not just with potential gene therapies being applied to fetuses, but even young children being given human growth hormone. So they'll be 3 to 4 inches taller than their peers. More affluent parents are beginning to do that in the US, for instance. Are you not worried about the sort of the politics and the narrative of transhumanism and where that can lead?
Yeah, there's no question. I think the central question of transhumanism is whether it really goes to the rich. My argument has always been something like cell phones. Cell phones actually have spread all over the world. When they first came out, yes, they were only for the rich, but it really only took about 5 to maybe 6 years, 7 years, that it spread around the globe, and you would find it in some of the poorest African villages. And they may not have clean water, but they had cell phones. That still doesn't mean that it's a perfect world. I mean, how can we make it so that everybody, has equal access to this type of technology and can benefit from it? Obviously, as running as a Democrat, I'm someone who's trying to keep, the balance between progress happening as well as everybody, even the poorest, having access to this technology. The problem, though, with transhumanism, let me just, this is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, is transhumanism was a wonderful movement. It was going to become as big as the environmental movement, probably. It was going great. It was just exploding in size. We were going to get to the Star Trek era, and then AI happened. Now, AI is a part of transhumanism, but it's not, somehow it's diverged off it. AI has become its own beast. In fact, AI has become so dangerous that I live in Silicon Valley, the area, and a lot of experts and a lot of engineers I talk to think within 18 to 24 months we'll have an artificial intelligence that's equal to us, and maybe within 36 to 48 months after that, we'll have a superintelligence. So transhumanism doesn't even matter if we have a superintelligence that doesn't like us. So all of a sudden, this movement that I've spent 20 years defending and writing about and promoting is fallen at the wayside by the fact that AI, not just taking your jobs, but maybe even just taking humanity with it. Let's say AI doesn't like us and decides to send a virus, and all the stoplights stop, all the water stops flowing, cars don't go anywhere. I mean, this could easily happen in the next, let's say, 2 to 5 years. At least according to the Silicon Valley engineers, OpenAI, people I've spoken with. So that presents a huge problem to not only the transhumanism movement, but also to the job apocalypse we're speaking about, and just to the greater worry about technology.
So you're an American. Do you not think that some of the concerns about an existential threat from AI is partly marketing from somebody like Sam Altman? Because it works for 2 reasons, right? One is, this thing is going to happen, therefore I need to manage it, which has been one of the kind of unique selling points of OpenAI, even though it's complete rubbish now. It's obviously aligned with Microsoft. So this could happen, so we need to stay ahead of it, and that was the story he sold to American legislators, congresspeople, and so on. And then equally, it's a great sell, right? The technology is this powerful that you need to, as Microsoft, give us tens of billions to build all of these servers, because somebody's going to need to get first mover advantage in this industry, and it can be you. I mean, do you not think it's marketing, or do you think it's more than that?
I actually don't think it's marketing. So let me just tell you, I had this incredible experience. I was invited with 80 of the world's top AI experts to Max Novastern's mansion. He had just bought it, $30 million mansion right above the Golden Gate Bridge. Max Novastern is the partner of Sam Altman of ChatGPT in WorldCoin, and a close affiliate, and also all these people from OpenAI and all the different generative AIs, Silicon Valley were there, mostly engineers. It was the most dystopian 3-4 hours I have ever spent. Every single engineer I spoke to said, my goal right now is to make as much money as possible in the next 18 to 24 months, because we can't speculate beyond that given how fast AI is evolving. So not only are we talking about AI being able to replicate every single job. So for example, my wife is an OBGYN. She spent 19 years in training, and there's a very good possibility within 24 months, an AI will know more about any kind of OBGYN surgery that could exist. And there are footprints in China and the United States of giant factories going up right now where they're planning to build humanoid robots, these 6-foot robots. You've probably all seen the Tesla bots. They're going to combine these Tesla bots, which eventually will, it's not just Tesla, there's 20 other manufacturers and other companies creating these humanoid robots. They're going to combine them with the generative AI that's out there, and some of these robots are going to be as agile as you and I within 24 months' time. So where does that leave us? And that's really the predicament that happened at this party and is happening all over Silicon Valley, and why there's been kind of a hiring freeze. Like, for example, Trump just said, oh, I'm going to put $100,000 on the visa. It doesn't matter because very few hires are happening anymore internationally from the United States. And the reason is because AI is taking all those jobs. So if you look at the kind of the curve and all the firings that's been happening in Silicon Valley, I think AI is a lot further than a lot of people realize.
That's super. So this is the H-1B1 visa it's called?
Yeah.
So for people who aren't aware, this is for high value knowledge workers. Obviously Silicon Valley is hugely dependent on those kinds of people. You're saying that what underpins the possibility of being able to do that is loads of people using machine learning to replace human workers.
Yes, but the problem is that we used to take in all these immigrants that were really skilled.
Yeah.
And now there's no reason to even take them in because AI can do their jobs. And that's why Trump put $100,000. May as well take the free money is what he's saying. But the bigger picture is how the media is reporting it. They're reporting it as like, oh, bad Trump for $100,000. It is kind of bad Trump. I would rather let them in and just do the good work. But the problem really is that people all know that there's no point anymore of taking in the huge amounts of skilled workers as immigrants because there's going to be no jobs. We're going to have AI doing all that coding, all AI doing all that programming. It already is starting to.
So when did you go to this mansion?
So this was about 9 to 10 weeks ago. And I swear it was the craziest thing. Wired magazine did a big article on it. It was just this most dystopian thing. Everybody came out of there like mourning for 2 weeks because you couldn't see the world anymore the same, knowing that engineers at OpenAI are giving themselves an 18 to 24 month timeline for their own jobs. And these are people working on the most sophisticated AIs that are out there.
And so this is Sam Altman's partner?
Yeah, at WorldCoin.
So these people are all they work under Peter Thiel, right?
I think some have associations, maybe Sam Altman.
I mean figuratively, right? So they are sort of the Thiel bros. Is there a sort of political project which is attendant with all of this?
Well, I don't want to be the conspiracy theorist, but I would say there is, because of Palantir and some stuff, like Peter Thiel's I guess, AI monitoring company. There's certainly this idea of that out there. I don't know enough from the inner circles to say whether that really exists, but I can tell you that the world does seem to be changing. If you had asked me a year ago, would I be able to say the things I'm saying to you now? I wouldn't. I would have said, nah, this is too far, this is conspiracy theory. And now I'm saying I have heard it from my own mouth. I've seen the progress of generative AI now for 3 years in a row, and it does seem to be going to a point that nobody seems to have an answer. And everyone says, why don't we just stop the creation of generative AI? But the problem is if we don't do it, the Chinese will do it or the Russians will do it. So we're kind of stuck, almost like we're on the Titanic. We see this iceberg, but we're still going to sink. So it's become incredibly difficult.
And what about Democrat legislators and sort of the wider American political class? Where are they at? Do they recognize the extent of what's happening?
I think we all recognize it, but we have this geopolitical concern with China and other players that would then create this generative AI. And I mean, the last thing I think democratic countries want is an AI that's controlled by maybe a totalitarian government. And we're stuck by maybe we should slow this down, but there's so much money involved. Silicon Valley gives millions to the candidates in California. I'm not getting those millions. We don't take corporate money, but others do. And like Kamala Harris and people like that have been taking it. So it's just tough to catch 22 right now.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
Thank you for being part of the conversation.